Reckonings, huge transformation of people, who have made these changes. But then, secondly, you had also a award-winning, a Webby award-winning series called Deep
Uh-huh.
Reckonings. When you originally made this, I think I had stumbled across this like years and years back. So just to kind of give
Oh.
a little bit of people some context, is deep fakes is when you kind of like take a video and then take like either a person's actor or a face and then put it over someone like a figure. So like what Stephanie did was basically make fake videos that imagine quote morally courageous versions of our moral figures. So what if Mark Zuckerberg basically had a reckoning? What if Judge Brett Kavanaugh, and I think Brett Kavanaugh was the one that went during his or after the Supreme Court, nomination, et cetera. And then Alex Jones having a reckoning that I saw. So, I mean, who would be kind of your, first off, I guess, talk a little bit about that and what that process was like. And then maybe who now would be your most wanted figure to do like an update? Because there's many
Mm,
choices. I mean,
it's
there's
endless. It's endless. Yeah, and I should also say, I mean that it's easy to kind of misunderstand this project or the spirit of this project, and it was very misunderstood. A
okay.
lot of people thought it was satire.
Okay.
And if you
Okay.
read the script or like headlines of articles that were written about it is like, so and so like grovels in their apology. It's like a groveling apology to me is not even interesting. It's like
Right. Right.
it's too easy actually. The
Right. Right.
challenge I gave myself, and I this might sound completely absurd, but is can I make something that would not alienate the person that it is of? And granted, putting words in someone's mouth is inherently alienating, and still, the creative challenge I gave myself, the brief I gave myself was, can I make something that would both not alienate the person and not alienate their critics?
Yeah.
And maybe that's a non-existent overlap in a Venn diagram, but I'm still trying to carve it out.
Hmm.
What is how can I steel man their
Yeah.
crisis of
Love
conscience?
that.
I'm also not this doesn't have to be also like bad guys. Like the prototype I did was of the Pope reckoning with the clergy sex abuse crisis. And I mean,
Oh,
I could do myself. I mean, it's like anyone. It's like how might I imagine? I mean, the tagline, the question that I'm exploring, there's many obviously epistemological, technological, ethical implications, but the overarching question of the project is how might we use our synthetic selves to elicit our better angels? I mean,
mm,
you could easily do one of yourself, the you that you want to be, in order to inspire you to be that self. My
hmm.
husband happens to be in addiction medicine. You could easily, you could imagine working with your patient to script a deep fake of their sober self in the future, talking to themselves now,
Oh, wow.
encouraging themselves onto the path of recovery. So this is the conjuring, eliciting our best selves. It's not like only applied to bad guys who need to apologize. And
Very cool. Yeah.
I guess the other thing I'll say is the how do I know what a reckoning sounds like? Well, I spent, X years interviewing people who'd had so that's really the source material for me. I'm not just kind of like, well, what do I wish Kavanaugh would say? It's like, well, what does a reckoning even sound like?
Right.
And so in writing the scripts, one of the questions I asked myself was, if this person had some kind of a crisis of conscience, what wisdom would they come to
Mm,
that
mm,
could teach all of us? Right? All
hmm.
of my guests, it's not just the apology. I mean, yes, sometimes there's an apology or a taking of responsibility, but always there's some wisdom there's some insight that is arrived at. So for me, an apology kind of wouldn't be enough. And that would also be like, okay, for the critics, but like, what's, what is come to as a result of realizing that I have something to take responsibility for. So for Kavanaugh, let's say, just as an example to kind of make it real, one of the things he says, his is my favorite. So if people are going to watch one or if you're going to insert one or something,
Yeah, I'll definitely
I
put
think
the link in at least.
his is my favorite because I think it's the most successful because I think it actually
Okay.
carved out, let's say, the space in that Venn diagram better than the others. And he says, the imaginary Kavanaugh says, evolution is beautiful, but it's not pretty. He
Oh, interesting.
says, for all of the men who are getting caught in the crossfire, and I might be one of them, or, it's like for people who are maybe getting caught in this, evolution is beautiful, but it's not pretty. Yes, there are people who are maybe getting caught in this process that we're going through, but there is a bigger process of social progress that I want to
Mm,
really celebrate and support. And so, yeah, evolution is beautiful. Thank God we are evolving the way that we treat women in this country. Thank God. I'm so grateful for that. And sometimes it's not pretty and sometimes it's messy. And guess what? I'm a man of power and privilege, and
right.
I can actually play my part to support so it can be a little prettier and and allow it to be the beautiful evolution that it is. So, yeah, so yeah, I guess just to say, yeah, this is not satire.
No, no. That I think
And
that's
the
an
and
important distinction because I think maybe people would have maybe thought that or saw a headline. So I appreciate you kind of distilling that.
Yeah, and the scripts I mean, it's a really fun challenge. They were really hard to write. I mean,
Hmm.
I was nervous to try to write a script for Alex Jones. It's like, do I
Right.
want to go into the heart of Alex Jones? And the reason that's scary is not even because like, oh, I'm going to discover that he's actually evil. It's like, no, because I'm going to discover that he's actually human.
Oh, right,
That's the
right. Yeah,
scary
yeah.
thing. It's like,
Yes.
wait, and yeah,
Good point.
and actually his was actually way easier to write than I would have thought. I actually found it was easier to find him, like, because I don't know how much you've listened to him speak, but he's suffering, and it's like you can hear it in his conversations with Joe Rogan. I
Sure.
found it easier to kind of like find him, I guess, than to find Zuckerberg. Yeah.
So who's on the list? So if you could,
Oh,
do one
now?
right
Oh, it's
now,
endless. Just
endless.
follow the news cycle. Literally, like the
Yeah.
news cycle it's constant. But
Right.
yeah, the obvious one lately is Putin, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
the way to make it clear that it's fictional is just have a dialogue between Putin and Jesus. And you don't have to say it's fake. Then you just really, and
Yeah. I mean,
it's Putin's reckoning and hmm,
I would put Musk up there. Obviously, I'd put Musk up there. That would be interesting. Or even like even taking someone like J.K. Rowling, like of her things like with trans issues and stuff. And but like you said, there's endless kind of extensions of kind of going through reckonings and then having them. But I love what you said about them being human.
yeah,
Like going through that process
yeah.
is way more interesting, I think, to find that they're human rather than some fictionalized myth character of good or evil. I think that's
Yeah, and that stuff is already out there. That stuff
yeah.
has already been done. You're actually though kind of making me think that this is maybe I should actually retitle it, and it's something like because for Musk and J.K. Rowling, for example, it's almost more like evolved crisis management. It's like it's like here's the thing that you could say that would help us all out.
Right, right. Yeah,
Which is
yeah.
like anybody needs that. Everybody needs that, like
Mm-hmm.
especially at peak cancellation moment. Like it's like, what is the thing that you could say? It's not that, yeah, it's like, it's not that you're like a bad guy or something. It's just that like you have the mic. And if you used it with like a tiny bit more grace, which I understand it's hard to do when a lot of people are beating up on you, but if you could like rise to the occasion a little bit and hear some words to help
Right,
inspire you, then
right.
that would be really helpful for all of us.
Well,
So it's
okay.
more like you use your mic wisely. Here,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. Okay, well then, I mean, I would implore you to maybe look at some of those other options and continue it because I think in
Musk and Rowling.
2000 or no, just in general because 2022 is begging for some of the more
Oh
of these
yeah,
deep
no, well
fakes because it's
the
been a minute,
dream way
right?
to do it, the way that I
2015.
would want to do it, is to make it and then send it to the person and be like, you do the real thing or we'll release the fake one.
Oh,
Like if you want to do
hilarious.
the real thing, I'll help you do the real thing, like
Yeah.
listen to the entire Reckonings catalog. I'll help you do and if you're not ready for that, then deep fake it till we make it.
Oh man, beautiful, beautiful. Okay, so I guess then now that we're finished with infinite lunchbox, infinite sandbox, etc., I guess you could say whichever one we want to. So sorry about that
I like
earlier.
both. I like both.
Yeah,
No worries.
but I guess the last question of that is like through these projects, I bet they obviously blood, sweat, and tears. A lot of time. Reckoning with yourself, like doing projects and stuff like that. What is maybe what has changed the most from yourself personally, from, or what have you learned the most from it yourself, from doing the, like these kind of like independent kind of things on the side? And obviously we'll get into the Center of Humane Technology. So maybe these other, independent projects, like what have you learned yourself the most? I mean, has there been,
What have I learned? I mean, I could kind of go high or go low.
we want it all,
Low,
Stephanie. We want it
want it
all.
all. Okay, low that I've learned, and this is not totally new, but that I live in a semi-permanent state of creative anguish because there are
Okay.
way too many things that I want to make than I could possibly make.
You're a real creator,
So
Stephanie, though. That's good.
I'm a
That's good.
tortured artist. I really am. That's and like I can say that I mean my best friend from high school calls me that. And there's actually some relief that comes with that because there's kind of an archetype. It's like there's a long history of this. I'm not alone.
I'm with you. Hi. Yeah. Yeah. We're
Okay,
together
hi,
in
good.
that. Yeah.
Exactly. Cool. Yeah, I've actually thought of like making a support group, an ideator support group. So maybe, yeah, because sometimes just talking about just like saying the ideas if I don't get to make them can actually be a source of
Totally.
relief. So
Yep.
if you want
Yep.
in,
Yep.
yeah,
Yep.
maybe. Okay. Okay, cool. So that's so if I go high, what have I learned? I mean, just because I have reckonings on the mind, it's kind of the same. It's the same lesson over and over again. I keep thinking the I find the human in there. I mean, I keep thinking like,
Mm.
oh no way, this episode. I was not looking for this episode, and an episode ended up in my lap that is a former priest. Okay, so
Wow.
clergy sex abuse, which for me it's like no way, no there. How could this ever like? There is no way that there is like a human being in
Right.
here,
Right.
right? Or
Right.
that there's any kind of like understanding of why this person did what they did. And this would happen to me every time.
Yeah.
Um, and then you go in there and it's like, oh, wow, there's a story here. I mean, this is an episode. It's a priest. It's a former priest who was convicted and accused and convicted and spent time in jail.
Mm-hmm.
And it's him and a woman who was abused by her nun, and they now are collaborating to bring restorative justice to the Catholic Church. So
Wow.
it's their
Okay.
story.
Cool.
Yeah, it's a wild story.
Okay.
And yeah, but it's like it was just kind of that same lesson over and over again with each time was like, am I really going to do this up? Am I really going to interview this person? I mean, it's not live, so I don't have to air it. But yeah, and every time I would just go in there and find, and there's some people I guess I should say that I would never that are just off the table for me, let's say
Mm-hmm.
for deep reckonings, that I don't even want to, I actually do not want to find the human being inside of Assad or
Oh,
inside of
sure.
MBS. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
not even interested in that. And
Yeah.
call that a boundary, that's fine. I'm fine. I'm aware of that boundary and I will keep that there, at least for now. But yeah, there are others that maybe I kind of had there and was like, am I actually going to be able to move this boundary or dissolve this boundary or play with this boundary? And it surprised me every time.
Okay. Very interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm definitely in support of the tortured artists, chat group that we're going to start, and then also
Okay.
putting up some boundaries. Even though you may find nuggets of humanity or stuff, there is use to put up some boundaries of sorts. So I do
Yeah,
like
the way
that.
I say it is I'm so open-minded, I'm even open to being closed-minded sometimes.
Beautiful, beautiful. Well said.